Close your eyes now. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be, no thought that requires your attention tonight. And you can simply allow all of that, all of the weight of the day, all of the small urgencies and half-finished worries, to begin dissolving at the edges, the way fog dissolves at the first gentle suggestion of morning warmth, quietly, without effort, without you even needing to watch it go. You are lying down. You notice this first, the simple, extraordinary fact of your own body at rest, the way the surface beneath you holds you completely, without asking anything in return, and you allow yourself to feel that support now, really feel it, the gentle pressure along the length of your spine, your shoulders, the backs of your arms, your legs growing heavier and more still with each slow breath you take. Breathe in, softly, through the nose. And breathe out, even more softly, and let that breath carry something with it. Let it carry just a little of the tension you have been holding in your jaw, behind your eyes, across the tops of your shoulders. And feel those places soften now, just slightly, just enough, becoming a little warmer, a little more loose, a little more willing to rest. You are inside a pod. You become aware of it gradually, the way you become aware of the details of a place in a dream, not all at once, but gently, one sensation at a time. The surface beneath you is curved and smooth, shaped perfectly to the contours of your body, neither too warm nor too cool, wrapped in something that feels like the softest thing you have ever touched, something that seems almost weightless itself, as though even the fabric here has forgotten how to be heavy. The pod is small but not confining. It is intimate, the way a shell is intimate around the thing it protects, and you feel held by it, cradled by it, the way the very young and the very tired know how to be held, without resistance, without self-consciousness, completely. Above you, curving overhead in a great slow arc, is glass. It is thick glass, ancient feeling and perfectly transparent, and you can see through it with absolute clarity, and what you see above you is the night sky. Still, at this moment, the familiar night sky, deep and dark and scattered with the first patient stars beginning to emerge from the blue-black velvet of the upper atmosphere. And the glass between you and all of that infinity feels not like a barrier but like a promise, like the difference between being in the water and watching the water from a warm and sheltered place. Breathe in. And breathe out. You are safe here. Completely, utterly, unconditionally safe. There is nothing outside this pod that can reach you, nothing that requires your vigilance tonight, and you can let that vigilance go now, let it slide from you the way water slides from smooth stone, because your only task, your only gentle task, is to drift. Somewhere beneath you, there is a sound. It is not a loud sound, not a roar the way you might have imagined. It is something deeper and more felt than heard, a low and resonant vibration that moves up through the curved floor of your pod and into your bones like a very slow, very deep note played on an instrument too large to see. And it is not frightening, this vibration. It is instead the most natural thing in the world, the feeling of something enormous beginning to wake, beginning to breathe, beginning to gather itself with tremendous and unhurried patience toward a single, quiet purpose. You feel yourself grow lighter. It happens so slowly that at first you are not certain it is happening at all. You notice only that the pressure of your body against the curved surface beneath you has softened slightly, as though someone has turned down the dial on gravity by just the smallest, most incremental degree, and you breathe out and you allow it, you allow the lightness, you do not chase it or cling to it, you simply let it come as it wishes to come, the way sleep itself comes when you finally stop reaching for it. And then, without drama, without ceremony, you are rising. The city is below you now. You did not feel the precise moment of departure because there was no precise moment. There was only the gradual, weightless fact of ascent, the ground withdrawing from you with the same slow tenderness with which the tide withdraws from the shore, and now you can see it through the glass above you, the city, your city, the one you know so well at street level, at the scale of faces and doorways and the particular slant of afternoon light between familiar buildings. But from here it is something else entirely. From here it is light. Pure, scattered, endlessly various light. The amber grid of the streets stretching in long parallel lines toward the darkness at the edges, and the white-blue clusters where the centers of things are, where the tallest buildings concentrate their glow into something almost like a second, earthbound constellation. And the occasional pulse of a signal tower somewhere, and the dark arteries of the rivers catching and holding the reflections of everything around them, and all of it is growing smaller now, all of it is slowly, gently, irrevocably miniaturizing beneath you as you rise, as the pod rises, carrying you upward through the clean cold dark with the patience of something that has always known where it is going. The clouds come and then the clouds are below you. They are lit from beneath by the glow of everything human, and from above by the moon, and they look, from this altitude, like something sculpted from silver and deep shadow, like a landscape that has never been walked upon, and then they are gone too, they are below and behind, and the sky around you is darkening now from the deep navy of high atmosphere into something that has no name in the vocabulary of ordinary weather, something that is not quite black, not quite blue, something that is simply the absence of air, the beginning of the vast and patient dark that lies between all things. And then, silence. Not the silence of a quiet room, not the silence of a night with the window closed. This is a different order of silence entirely, a silence so complete and so total that it feels almost like a substance, like something you are moving through rather than merely the absence of something. And it presses against the outside of your glass with infinite gentleness, and you feel it somehow even inside the pod, feel the quality of it, the extraordinary peace of it, the way it holds everything, the earth below you, the stars around you, your own slow breathing, in a stillness so vast that all of it seems like a single, quiet thing. You are drifting now. The word means something different up here. Drifting is not aimless here. Not the drifting of someone lost or uncertain, but the drifting of something perfectly in balance, something that has found the exact relationship between its own momentum and the pull of a distant gravity and learned to simply follow that invisible line forever, effortlessly, the way a note of music follows its own frequency through open air. And there is the moon. It does not appear suddenly. It grows, the way awareness of a sound grows when you have been hearing it for some time without noticing, and then you notice, and you cannot understand how you did not notice before, because it is enormous and close and ancient and utterly still, hanging in the dark with the quiet authority of something that has been doing this silver, slow, enormous thing, for longer than the mind can comfortably hold. The light on its surface is not the light of something glowing from within, but the reflected light of the sun falling across those old gray plains and ancient craters, and it is a cool light, a patient light, a light that has crossed such distances to arrive here that it seems to carry the silence of that crossing still within it, and it falls now across the glass of your pod and across your face and your hands, and it is the most peaceful light you have ever seen. You look at the craters along the edge where the light becomes shadow, where the edges of things are longest and most defined, and you see how old they are, how undisturbed, how perfectly preserved in this world with no wind, no water, no weather, no hurry. Only the slow turning of time across a surface that has learned to hold its scars with a kind of sublime and quiet peace. You drift past it slowly, the great silver sphere turning imperceptibly in the dark. The earth is behind you now, a blue and luminous thing at the edge of your vision, lit from within it seems, fragile and impossibly beautiful and growing slowly, peacefully smaller, and ahead of you is the deep dark of the solar system opening like a held breath finally released, like a door opening onto a room so large you cannot find the walls. Breathe in and breathe out. You let your eyes grow heavier now, heavier and softer and more still, and you feel the pod hold you the way it has always held you, warm and curved and close, and the silence presses gently against the glass, and the stars are everywhere around you, steady and cold and impossibly numerous, each one a sun burning alone in its own ocean of dark, and all of it is so still, so endlessly, perfectly still. You are moving, and yet you are perfectly still. Both things are true up here, and you allow both things to be true, and you do not need to understand them, you only need to let them carry you, the way the current carries something small and light and willing, out through the dark, further from all that was urgent, further from all that was heavy, further into the vast and velvet quiet of the space between worlds. Ahead of you, growing slowly in the glass, is the rust-red glow of something distant. You do not need to reach for it. You do not need to hurry toward it. It is coming to you the way all things come in space, slowly, with tremendous patience, with the absolute certainty of something that has all the time there is and knows it. You breathe out one more time, and you let yourself go. Just drift. Just float. Just rest here, in the warm dark of your pod, in the silver silence between the moon and whatever comes next, weightless, safe, and perfectly, completely still. The stars are around you in every direction now, more than you have ever seen, more than you knew existed, each one patient and burning and impossibly far away, and you are very small among them, very small and very warm and very, very safe, and that smallness is not frightening tonight. It is the most restful thing you have ever felt, because here, in this silence, in this dark, in this soft and drifting place between worlds, nothing is required of you at all. Nothing. Only this. Only the slow and easy breath moving in and moving out. Only the velvet dark pressing gently against the glass. Only the stars. Only the silence. Only rest. You are still drifting. The moon is behind you now, growing smaller in the dark the way all things grow smaller when you leave them gently, without urgency, without looking back too hard. And the pod holds you still, warm and curved and close, and the silence outside the glass is the same silence it has always been up here, total and soft and impossibly deep, the kind of silence that does not feel empty but rather full, full of everything that does not need to make a sound. Breathe in. And breathe out. Let your body sink a little more deeply into the surface beneath you now, and notice how willing it is to hold you, how it asks nothing, how it simply offers itself as a place to rest, and you accept that offer completely, your shoulders releasing, your hands uncurling, the muscles along the backs of your legs letting go of something they have been holding all day without you ever asking them to. You are very far from home now. And that is a beautiful thing. Because home is still there, behind you, that small blue light in the dark, burning quietly, holding everything you know and everyone you love in its thin warm layer of air and light and cloud, and it is not going anywhere, and neither are you, not really. You are only borrowing this stillness for a little while, this vast and weightless quiet between worlds, and you are allowed to be here, you are allowed to rest here, in the dark between things. Ahead of you now, the solar system opens. It is not the solar system of diagrams and textbooks, not the neat flat circle with its labeled rings. It is deeper than that, and stranger, and more beautiful, a three-dimensional darkness in every direction, and scattered through it at distances the mind cannot truly hold. The planets move in their slow, unhurried orbits, each one alone, each one patient, each one burning or reflecting its small share of the sun's ancient light. And you are moving toward the first of them now. It appears as a point of light at first, the way all distant things appear, indistinguishable from the stars around it except for something in its color, something warm and reddish and faintly different from the blue-white of the stars, and you watch it as you drift, watch it the way you watch the first light of dawn beginning at the very edge of the horizon, not rushing, not arriving, simply becoming, slowly and then slowly more. Mars is growing in the glass above you. You breathe out and you watch it come, this ancient, rust-colored world turning in the dark with the slow dignity of something very old and very alone, and it is beautiful in a way that is entirely different from the beauty of the moon, because the moon is silver and still and reflective, but Mars is warm. Mars carries a color that reminds you of something, of red clay after rain, of desert rock in late afternoon light, of the inside of closed eyes in a sunlit room. You drift closer. The surface resolves itself slowly through the glass, the way a painting becomes a landscape when you step close enough to see the brush strokes, and you begin to make out the shapes of things. The long dark scar of a canyon system stretching across the face of the planet, so vast that all the mountains of Earth could be laid inside it and still leave room, and the white suggestion of frost at the poles, and the great shield volcanoes rising so gradually from the plains that you would not recognize them as mountains at all from the ground. They are simply the shape of the world rising, slowly, over enormous distances, toward a sky the color of a bruised and faded evening. There is no sound from it. Of course there is no sound. There is never sound up here. But Mars feels quieter than most things, quieter even than the moon, because the moon at least reflects the Earth's light back, connects you to something familiar, but Mars has no such reflection. Mars is turned entirely toward itself, toward its own long red silence, its own ancient and unwitnessed history, and looking at it you feel something that is not quite loneliness and not quite peace but lives very close to both, the feeling of a place that has been waiting for a very long time with no particular hope of anything arriving, and finding that waiting beautiful. You breathe in, and you breathe out, and Mars falls slowly behind you. You carry it with you for a moment, the memory of that warm red light, and then it too becomes a point, a small rust-colored star among all the other stars, and ahead of you the dark opens further, opens into something wider and stranger and more full of distance than anything you have drifted through yet. Between Mars and the next great world, there is a belt. You enter it gradually, without drama, the way you enter a forest, not through a gate but simply by noticing that the trees have become closer, more numerous, more present around you, and the rocks appear at first as distant glints, each one tumbling slowly in the dark, each one catching the far and distant light of the sun and turning it over slowly, the way a hand turns a stone, examining it, releasing it. They are not close enough to touch. They are not close enough to concern you. They drift in their own slow orbits with the patience of things that have been doing exactly this for 4.5 billion years, and you drift among them the way a breath of air drifts through a forest, touching nothing, disturbing nothing, simply passing through, and the light that catches on their surfaces is faint and scattered and beautiful, like the light on water seen from very far above. Some of them are the size of mountains. Some of them are the size of houses, of rooms, of the kind of smooth river stones that fit perfectly in the palm of a hand, and they are all of them tumbling, all of them turning in their own slow and private rotations, and the silence among them is the same total silence as everywhere up here, but it feels different in the belt. It feels inhabited. It feels like the silence of a room full of sleeping things. You breathe out. You let your breathing slow even further now, slower than it was before, and notice that this is easy. Notice that your body already knows how to do this, already knows how to release a little more with each breath out, a little more of the day, a little more of the weight, a little more of the self that needed to be somewhere, needed to do something, needed to be ready for whatever came next. Nothing is coming next, up here. There is only the dark, and the slowly tumbling rocks, and the far cold light of the sun growing gradually more distant behind you, and the silence, and your own breath moving in and out of your body with the slow and patient rhythm of the tide, the rhythm of all things that know how to wait, how to rest, how to simply be. The asteroid belt falls behind you. And now the dark is different. You feel it before you see it, the sense of something very large ahead, something whose gravity you can almost feel even at this distance, not as a pull but as a presence, the way you feel the presence of the ocean before you see it, something in the quality of the air, something in the light, something that suggests enormous depth. And then you see it. Jupiter. It fills the glass slowly, the way a great and patient thought fills the mind when you have finally stopped thinking and simply let it come, and it is so large, so overwhelmingly, quietly large, that for a moment your mind simply rests against the fact of it without trying to understand it, the way you rest your hand against a warm wall, not analyzing the warmth, simply feeling it. The bands of cloud that wrap it are moving. You can see this even from here, the slow river of the storms moving in their eternal east-west current, amber and cream and the faintest suggestion of rose, and the colors are not vivid, not the colors of something bright and urgent, they are the colors of old light, of antique paper, of the inside of a cloud seen from within, and they move with the slowness of everything up here, the slowness that is not laziness but is instead the pace of things operating at a scale too large for urgency. And there, on the face of it, you see the storm. A single oval, white at the edges and deepening towards something darker at the center, a storm that has been turning continuously for longer than human beings have existed, longer than the word storm has existed, a storm so old it has forgotten what it was responding to, and now it simply turns, simply persists, simply continues with the quiet stubbornness of something that no longer remembers how to stop. You look at it and you feel your own thoughts slow to match it. You feel the small, rapid weather of your mind, the quick systems of worry and planning and remembering, begin to slow, begin to lose their urgency, begin to turn more gently, more widely, in longer and more gradual circles, until they are no longer storms at all but simply the slow movement of something very large and very old that has learned to carry itself without distress. Breathe in. And breathe out. Jupiter turns in the dark, enormous and unhurried and impossibly beautiful, and its moons move around it in their own quiet orbits, each one a world, each one a different kind of silence, and you drift past all of it slowly, taking nothing, disturbing nothing, leaving no trace of your passage at all, just a small and warm thing in a small and warm pod, carried through the dark by the simple fact of your momentum and the gentleness of the space between things. You are very far from home now, further than anyone has been, in the ordinary way of things. And yet you are not lost. You could not be lost up here because there is nowhere you need to be, no appointment waiting, no name being called, nothing incomplete. You are exactly where you are, which is here, in the warm dark of your pod, in the vast and velvet silence of the outer solar system, and that is enough, that is more than enough, that is everything. Breathe in. And breathe out. Let your eyes close if they have not already closed, and let the darkness behind your eyes be the same darkness as the darkness outside the glass, continuous and deep and full of the kind of quiet that holds rather than empties, and feel how similar they are, the darkness inside and the darkness outside. Feel how little difference there is between the space between stars and the space behind closed eyes and a warm and resting body. You are made of this, after all. Every heavy element in your body was made in a star, fused in the interior of something enormous and burning that existed long before the earth existed, and when it ended, it scattered itself into the dark, and some of that scattering became you, became the particular arrangement of matter that is sitting here now, resting here now, drifting here now in a warm pod through the outer dark of the solar system. You are not visiting space. You are part of it, returning to it, the way water returns to the ocean, the way light returns to dark, and the recognition of this is not frightening but is instead the most restful thing you have felt yet, more restful even than the surface beneath you, more restful even than the silence, because it means that none of this is strange, none of this is far from home, all of this is home, the dark and the stars and the slow turning of enormous things, all of it is the place you come from, all of it holds you the way it has always held you, without effort, without condition, without end. Breathe out now. Let everything go. Let the thoughts dissolve the way city lights dissolve when you rise high enough above them, becoming first a glow, then a suggestion, then nothing at all, absorbed into the greater dark. Let the sounds dissolve. Let the weight dissolve. Let even the sense of yourself dissolve a little at the edges, not completely, not frighteningly, just enough to feel how much larger the quiet is than any single thing inside it, how much more spacious the dark is than any thought that moves through it. You are floating. You are warm. You are safe. And somewhere ahead of you in the dark, growing so slowly that you will not see it arrive, only find it there when you look again, is the pale gold suggestion of Saturn and its rings, catching the faint and ancient light of the far sun, turning in its own slow and private silence. But that is still a long way away. And you have time. You have all the time there is. So for now, just breathe. Just float. Just rest here in the soft dark between Jupiter and whatever comes next, weightless and warm and completely, perfectly still. The stars are very bright up here. Brighter than you have ever seen them. And they are not going anywhere. And neither are you. Just rest. Just drift. Just sleep. You are still drifting. Jupiter is behind you now, that enormous amber presence fading slowly into the dark the way a fire fades when you walk away from it. First the warmth leaving, then the light, then only the memory of both, soft and warm at the edges of your awareness, and ahead of you the solar system continues to open, continues to deepen, continues to offer more of its ancient and unhurried silence. Breathe in. And breathe out. Feel how easy that is now. Feel how your body has learned the rhythm of this place, the slow and weightless rhythm of drifting through the dark, and how your breath has matched itself to that rhythm without you asking it to, the way the breath always finds its own pace when the mind finally stops directing it and simply allows it to move as it knows how to move, in and out, like the tide, like the turning of a very slow and very distant world. You are warm inside the pod. You are aware of this warmth the way you are aware of it just before sleep, not as a thought but as a sensation, as the simple and complete fact of your own body held in a temperature that is exactly right, and the surface beneath you has taken on the shape of you so perfectly that you can no longer tell where you end and it begins, and that boundary between self and softness has become pleasantly unclear, the way all boundaries become pleasantly unclear in the last few moments before you cross into sleep. Let that boundary blur a little more now. Just a little more. And ahead of you in the dark, something is appearing. It does not look like anything you expected, and yet when you see it, some part of you recognizes it immediately, the way you recognize a piece of music you have not heard since childhood, not remembering it consciously but feeling it, feeling the shape of it, the emotional weight of it, before any memory arrives. It is light. But not ordinary light. It is the light of something so large and so intricate that the mind cannot take it in all at once, and so instead it arrives in pieces, first as a glow at the edge of the dark, a pale gold luminescence that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, and then slowly, as you drift closer, as the pod carries you forward with its patient and unhurried momentum, the glow resolves itself into something more specific, something with structure and geometry. Something that is simultaneously the most delicate and the most enormous thing you have seen on this journey. Saturn is ahead of you. And its rings are real. You knew they existed. You have seen the images, the photographs, the diagrams. But knowing and seeing are entirely different things, and what you see now through the glass of your pod is not a diagram and not a photograph but the thing itself. Turning in the dark with a slow and ceremonial grace, the rings catching the distant sunlight and spreading it across their breadth in a thin and luminous arc that stretches so far in each direction that you cannot see where it ends, only where it begins to blur into the dark at the edges of your vision. Breathe out. The rings are made of ice. Billions of fragments of ice, each one tumbling in its own private orbit around the great gold planet, each one catching the light and turning it and releasing it in the same moment, so that the whole vast structure shimmers as you approach it, shimmers the way a surface of water shimmers when the light comes across it at a low angle, The way frost on glass shimmers in the early morning, and the shimmer is not the same from moment to moment. It changes as you move, as the angle of the distant sun changes, as the rings themselves continue their slow and endless turning. You have never seen anything so beautiful. You did not know that beauty could operate at this scale. You knew beauty in small things, in the particular quality of light through a window in the late afternoon, in the sound of water moving over stones, in the warmth of something held in both hands. And those things are still beautiful, they will always be beautiful, but this is beauty of a different order entirely, beauty that does not ask you to respond to it, that does not require your appreciation or your wonder, that simply exists, that has been existing here in the dark for 4 billion years without an audience and will continue to exist long after every eye that has ever seen it is closed. That thought is restful. Let it be restful. Let the idea of something beautiful that does not need you to witness it settle into you like warmth, because it means that beauty is not fragile, it is not dependent on attention, it persists in the dark without anyone watching, and so does the peace of this place, and so does the silence, and so, in a way, does the rest that is waiting for you at the end of this long and gentle drift. You pass alongside the rings. You are not close enough to touch them, not close enough to feel the ice if you pressed your hand against the glass, but you are close enough to see the structure within them, the gaps between the bands, the places where the gravity of the moons has swept the ice clear into dark lanes that run through the brightness like the spaces between thoughts, and you float alongside all of it in your warm and silent pod, and Saturn turns beside you with the patience of something that has never needed to hurry, has never been asked to hurry, exists entirely outside the jurisdiction of urgency. Let yourself exist outside of urgency now too. Just for this moment. Just for this drift. Allow the part of you that tracks time, that measures progress, that calculates how much remains and how much has passed, allow that part to rest, to set down its instruments, to simply float alongside you without its usual work, because there is no work up here, there is nothing to measure, the distance is too vast for ordinary measurement and the time is too deep, and without measurement there is only experience, only the simple and sufficient fact of being here, warm and drifting, in the light of Saturn's rings. The planet itself is below the rings, vast and pale gold, its own cloud bands moving in the same slow east-west current as Jupiter's but softer here, more muted, more the color of old paper and distant candlelight, and its storms are quieter, its surface less dramatic, as though this far from the sun even the weather has learned a kind of patience, a kind of willingness to move slowly and disturb nothing more than it must. You breathe out and you watch it turn. And then slowly, gently, with no sense of loss, Saturn begins to fall behind you too. You carry it with you as you always carry the beautiful things, not in your hands but somewhere softer than that, somewhere below thought, and ahead of you the dark deepens again, the sun behind you now small enough that you might cover it with the tip of your finger if you held your hand up to the glass, a bright and ordinary star among all the other stars, still the brightest, still the warmest, but no longer dominant, no longer the overwhelming presence it was when you left, now simply one light among many in the dark. This is a strange and wonderful feeling. To look back at the sun and see it as a star. To understand, not as a fact learned from a page but as a lived and felt experience, that your whole world, everything that has ever happened, every person you have ever loved, every morning you have ever woken into, exists in the light of something that from here is simply a bright point in the dark, unremarkable in its brightness, distinguished only by the fact that you know it, that it is yours, that it is home. Breathe in. And breathe out. You drift further. The cold outside the glass is a cold that has no comparison in ordinary experience, a cold so absolute and so total that it is almost conceptual, almost the idea of cold rather than cold itself, and yet inside the pod you feel none of it. Inside the pod you are warm, you are held, you are perfectly comfortable. And the contrast between the absolute cold outside and the absolute warmth inside feels like the contrast between sleep and waking, between the hard world and the soft interior of a resting mind. Uranus appears in the dark. It is unlike anything you have seen on this journey, a pale and luminous blue-green, the color of shallow tropical water seen from above, the color of sea glass held up to the light, and it is tilted on its side as it orbits, rolling through the dark like a slow and dreaming eye, its poles facing the sun in turn across its long ear, and there is something about that tilt, that unhurried rolling through the dark, that is deeply and inexplicably restful to watch. It glows softly. It does not demand your attention the way Jupiter demanded it, does not shimmer and elaborate the way Saturn did. It simply glows, pale and steady and quiet, a world that has made its peace with distance, with cold, with the slow and patient work of orbiting something very far away, and it passes in your glass like a thought that arrives complete and requires no response, that you can simply observe and let continue on its way. Breathe out. Let it pass. And then beyond Uranus the dark deepens once more, and you drift into it willingly, gratefully, the way you drift into the deepest part of a warm and heavy sleep, the part where dreams become slow and large and full of color, where the body is completely still and the mind moves only in the widest and most gradual circles. Neptune is the last. It is blue. Not the blue-green of Uranus, but a deep and saturated blue, the blue of the deepest ocean at noon, the blue of the sky at the very peak of altitude just before it darkens into space, and it is beautiful in a way that deep water is beautiful, beautiful in a way that carries a little of the sublime, a little of the vast and patient force of something that is depth you cannot fully see. Its winds are the fastest in the solar system, but you cannot feel them. You cannot hear them. From here, from the warm and silent interior of your pod, Neptune is simply a blue and luminous sphere turning in the absolute dark, and whatever storms rage on its surface are muffled into nothing by the silence between you, the way storms on the other side of a mountain are nothing but a change in the quality of the air if you are standing on the near side, sheltered and still and completely at peace. You drift alongside it. You feel the blue of it settle into you the way the color of calm water settles into you when you look at it for a long time, without agenda, without thought, simply resting your eyes on something that is a color designed by no one and belonging to no one, a color that simply is, that has been since the planet formed, that will continue long after every eye has looked at it and looked away. Breathe in. And breathe out. Neptune falls behind you. And now you are at the edge. The edge of the familiar solar system, the edge of the planetary world, the last place where the sun's family of worlds has arranged itself into something you might recognize from the diagrams of your childhood. And beyond this edge is something else entirely, something wider and colder and more ancient, and you are drifting toward it with complete and total peace. Your body is very heavy now. Heavy in the good way, the way a body is heavy when it is completely relaxed, when every muscle has remembered how to release, when the weight of the limbs is not burden but ballast, not heaviness but groundedness, the body knowing its own edges and resting within them without tension, without resistance, without anything at all but the simple and sufficient fact of being a body, warm and breathing and at rest. Your breathing is very slow now. Slower than it was when this journey began, slower than it is in ordinary waking life, closer now to the rhythm of deep sleep, that long and patient in and out that the body settles into when the mind has finally agreed to be quiet, when the day has been fully released, when there is nothing left to monitor or manage or prepare for. Let it be that slow. Let it be even slower than that. Ahead of you in the dark, the solar system ends. Not with a wall, not with a boundary you could touch or see, but with a gradual fading, a slow diminishment of the sun's influence, the solar wind thinning from something to almost nothing, the bubble of our sun's breath growing thinner and more permeable until finally, softly, without ceremony, it simply gives way to what was always there beyond it. The interstellar dark. But that is where the next part of this journey will take you. For now, rest here at the edge. Rest here where the solar system breathes its last breath outward into the greater dark, where the sun is just a star, where the planets are behind you and the infinite is ahead, and there is nothing required of you, nothing at all, only this warmth, only this silence, only the slow and easy movement of your breath, in and out, like the most patient tide in the most distant sea. You are very close to sleep now. You can feel it, that familiar gravity, that gentle pull toward the place where thought becomes image and image becomes nothing and nothing becomes the deep and restful dark of real sleep, and you do not need to chase it. You never needed to chase it. You only needed to drift long enough and far enough and gently enough for it to find you. And it has found you. It is finding you right now. So let your eyes be still behind their lids. Let your hands be still. Let your breath do its slow and easy work without any help from you. And drift. Just drift. Here at the edge of everything familiar, here where the sun is a star and the stars are everything, here in the warm dark of your pod, held and safe and perfectly, completely, deeply still. Rest now. You have come so far. Rest. You have crossed the edge. You did not feel it happen, and that is exactly right, because the most important crossings rarely announce themselves. They simply occur, quietly, while you are breathing, while you are resting, while you are paying attention to something else entirely, and then you look up and everything is different, everything is wider, everything is more still than it was before, and you understand that you have passed through something without ever finding its precise location. The solar system is behind you now. Not far behind. Not yet. It is still there if you turn your attention toward it. That small and distant warmth, that faint suggestion of the sun's light carried across such distances that by the time it reaches you it is barely light at all, barely more than a quality of the dark, a slightly different texture to the blackness in one particular direction. And you carry it with you the way you carry the warmth of a room after you have stepped outside into the cold, not feeling it anymore but knowing it is there, knowing it exists, knowing you can return to it. But you are not returning. Not yet. Breathe in and breathe out and let yourself feel where you are. You are in the space between stars. This is not the space between planets, which is vast but still contained, still belonging to something, still oriented around the warmth of a single sun. This is a different kind of space entirely, a space that belongs to nothing and to everything equally, a space that has no center and no edge, no up and no down, no landmark by which to measure position or progress, only the dark, extending in every direction without limit, and the stars scattered through it at distances so enormous that the numbers used to describe them are themselves almost meaningless, almost poetic, almost a kind of prayer. You are between the prayers, and it is the most peaceful place you have ever been. The silence here is different from the silence of the planetary system. The silence of the planetary system was the silence of a house at night, inhabited, warm, full of the sleeping breath of worlds. This silence is older than that, deeper than that, a silence that predates every world, that was here before the sun ignited, before the planets coalesced from their spinning cloud of dust and gas, before any of the materials that would eventually become you had been gathered into anything resembling a shape. This silence was here first, and it will be here last. And right now it is simply here, holding you in your warm and drifting pod with the same absolute and unconditional patience with which it holds everything else, the distant stars, the slow clouds of gas and dust drifting between them, the ancient light traveling in every direction from every source, crossing these impossible distances at the only speed it knows, unhurried because speed itself has no meaning when the distances are this deep. Breathe out. Let the silence in, just a little, just through the glass, not the cold of it, not the emptiness of it, but the quality of it, the profound and ancient restfulness of a silence this old, this complete, this entirely undisturbed by anything you have ever worried about. Your body is very still now. You may have noticed this without noticing you noticed it, the way the body becomes still when the mind finally releases its grip on the day, when the last thought is dissolved, when even the awareness of thinking has grown soft and uncertain at the edges. Your hands are open. Your jaw is loose. The muscles of your face, which hold so much without being asked, have remembered how to let go, and your expression now is the expression of someone who is completely, deeply, perfectly at rest. Let it be even more still than that. Let even the small movements rest, the micro-adjustments, the tiny corrections the body makes out of habit, out of vigilance, out of the long practice of being ready. You do not need to be ready up here. There is nothing to be ready for. There is only the dark, and the stars, and the warm interior of the pod, and your own breath moving in and out with the slowness of deep water. The stars are different out here. You see this now, through the glass, the way they look when there is nothing between you and them, no atmosphere to scatter and soften their light, no moisture, no dust, no thin blue veil of sky. They are harder out here, more precise, each one a perfect and unwavering point of light rather than the soft and twinkling things you are used to seeing from the ground, and the effect is not cold, as you might have expected, but strangely intimate, as though you are seeing them as they actually are for the first time, without the beautiful distortion of distance and atmosphere, without the haze that makes them romantic but also makes them less themselves. They are very old, these stars. Some of them are older than the sun. Some of them formed in the first billion years of the universe, when the first generation of stars ignited out of the primordial hydrogen and burned briefly and enormously and then scattered their heavier elements into the dark to be gathered up again by the next generation, and the generation after that, in the long and patient alchemy that eventually, after billions of years of gathering and burning and scattering and gathering again, produced the carbon and the oxygen and the iron that became the earth, that became the oceans, that became the first stirring of life in the warm and shallow water, that became, through such a long and patient sequence of becomings that the mind cannot follow it without losing itself somewhere in the middle, you. You are the universe looking at itself. That thought is very old and very true, and you do not need to do anything with it except let it rest in you. Let it settle the way sediment settles in still water, slowly, without effort, finding its own level, becoming part of the ground. Breathe in. And breathe out. Ahead of you in the dark, something is changing. It is not a dramatic change, not a sudden appearance, not the arrival of something you were not expecting. It is more like the sky before dawn, the way the quality of the darkness shifts almost imperceptibly, almost beyond the threshold of perception, from the full dark of deep night towards something that is not yet light but is no longer entirely dark, a change in texture rather than color, a change in depth rather than brightness. There is a cloud ahead. A nebula, drifting in the interstellar dark with the patience of something made of gas and time, lit from within by the young stars embedded in it, by the new suns that have recently ignited in its denser regions, burning away the cloud around them the way a lamp burns away the fog in a small radius, creating pockets of luminous clarity within the larger soft glow of the whole. It is rose and violet and a deep and dusty amber. The colors are not vivid the way the colors of a painting are vivid. They are the colors of something seen at the very edge of perception, soft and uncertain and more felt than seen. The colors of the inside of closed eyelids in a dark room, of the edge of a dream as it is beginning to form, of the kind of beauty that does not insist on itself but simply offers itself, quietly, to whoever is paying attention. You are paying attention. Or something in you is paying attention, some quiet and patient part of you that has remained awake while the rest of you has begun the long and gradual descent into sleep, watching through the glass, holding the beauty of it without grasping it, without needing to possess it or describe it or remember it, just receiving it, the way the surface of still water receives the reflection of the sky, completely and without effort and without keeping any of it when the light changes. Breathe out. The nebula drifts around you like the memory of a dream. You are moving through it so slowly that you cannot feel your movement at all, can only see the very gradual change in the light around you, the way the rose and violet deepen slightly and then soften again as the pod passes through different densities of the cloud, and the young stars embedded in it glow through the gas like lights behind silk, like candles behind frosted glass, like the warmth of something that has just begun and has all the time in the universe ahead of it. New worlds are being born here. You cannot see them yet. They are still dust and gas, still in the early stages of the long and patient process of becoming, still millions of years from the moment when they will be solid enough to stand on, billions of years from the moment when anything might stand on them and look up and see the stars and wonder about what lies between them. But they are coming. Slowly, with the patience that only things operating on geological and astronomical timescales can manage, they are coming, gathering themselves out of the cloud the way all things gather themselves, gradually, without hurry, following only the invisible instructions of gravity and time. There is something deeply restful about that. About the idea that becoming is always happening, slowly, in the dark, without witness, without urgency, without anyone needing to watch over it or encourage it or manage it. That the universe continues its long and patient work of making things whether or not anyone is paying attention, whether or not anyone is awake to see it. You do not need to watch over anything tonight. You do not need to manage anything, encourage anything, keep anything on track. The things that are becoming will continue to become. The things that need to happen will continue to happen. The universe is very good at its work, has been doing it for nearly 14 billion years, and it will continue long after this night is over, long after this sleep is over, long after everything you know has been returned to the dark from which it came and gathered again into something new. So rest. Just rest. Let the nebula drift around you, rose and violet and ancient amber. Let the young stars glow through the gas like the first light of a very distant morning. Let the silence hold you in its oldest and most patient arms. And let your mind do what it has been trying to do since this journey began. Let it finally, completely, gratefully release. Breathe in. So slowly. And breathe out. Even more slowly than that. Your thoughts, if there are any left, are very gentle now, very loose, more like weather than like thinking, more like the slow movement of cloud across a wide sky than like anything with edges or urgency or a destination. They come and they go. They do not require your attention. They do not require anything at all. They are simply the last gentle activity of a mind that is almost asleep. The nebula is thinning around you now. The rose and violet are fading back into the deeper dark as you drift through the far edge of the cloud, and ahead of you the interstellar space opens again, darker than before, wider than before, and in that darkness the stars are very bright and very still and very numerous, and they are all of them burning with their own patient fire, each one a sun, each one perhaps circled by its own worlds, its own silences, its own long and patient dark. You are very small among them. And that smallness is the most comfortable thing you have felt on this entire journey, more comfortable even than the surface beneath you, more comfortable even than the silence, because to be small in this way, To be one warm and breathing thing in the middle of this vast and ancient dark is to be relieved of the burden of being large, the burden of mattering in the ordinary sense, the burden of significance and productivity and forward motion. Up here you do not need to be significant. Up here you only need to breathe. And you are breathing. Slowly, deeply, completely, the breath moving in and out of your body with the ease of something that has been doing this forever and will continue doing it without any help from you. The lungs opening and closing like the most patient thing in the world, like the tide on a shore very far away, like the slow and quiet pulse of something alive in the middle of all this beautiful and ancient dark. The stars are all around you. Above and below and to every side, more stars than you could count in a lifetime of counting, more light than the darkness can contain, and yet the darkness contains it all, holds it all, gives each star its own space of dark so that it can be itself, so that its light can be seen, and the darkness is not the absence of the stars but the thing that makes the stars possible, the ground from which they rise and to which they will one day return. You are like that too. Your waking is made possible by your sleeping, your light by your dark, your days by these long and quiet nights, and the night is not the end of anything but the foundation of everything, the deep and patient ground from which tomorrow will rise, slowly, with the same unhurried certainty with which the stars rise above the horizon of a world that has been turning patiently through its own long night. But tomorrow is very far away. Tomorrow is not here yet and it does not need you yet, and you can let it wait where it is, quietly, on the other side of this sleep, while you rest here in the warm and drifting dark of your pod, in the space between stars, in the oldest silence there is. Breathe out now. One long, slow breath out. And let everything go with it. Let the last of the day go. Let the last of the thinking go. Let even the awareness of this journey go, softly, without effort, the way you let go of a dream as you wake, without intention, simply by opening your eyes into a different light. Let your eyes stay closed. Let the dark behind them be the same dark as the dark outside the glass. Let the silence inside you be the same silence as the silence between stars. And drift. Just drift. You are almost there now. Almost in the place that has no name and needs no name, the place that is not a place at all but simply the absence of wakefulness, the gentle and complete surrender of a mind that has traveled far enough and rested long enough and finally, gratefully, let go. The stars are waiting for you on the other side of sleep. They are very patient. They have been waiting for billions of years. They can wait a little longer. So go now. Go gently. Go completely. Into the dark. Into the quiet. Into the deep and ancient rest that was always here, always waiting, always exactly this warm and exactly this still and exactly this safe. Sleep. You are still here. Some quiet part of you is still here, still drifting, still warm inside the pod, still held by the silence of the space between stars, and that part of you does not need to be anywhere else, does not need to do anything else, only this, only the soft and continuous fact of drifting, of breathing, of being a small and warm thing in the middle of an enormous and ancient dark. Breathe in. Very slowly. And breathe out. Even more slowly than that. You have been traveling for a long time now, longer than any ordinary journey, further than any ordinary distance, and your body knows this the way a body knows the depth of a long and restful sleep, not as a thought but as a weight, a beautiful and welcome weight, the weight of complete release, every muscle having long ago surrendered its tension, every joint loose and open and free. Every part of you that was holding something having finally, gratefully, set it down. You are not holding anything now. There is nothing to hold. There is only the drift. And something is changing around you, changing so slowly that you are not certain when it began, only that it is happening, The way the quality of light changes in a room as the day progresses, imperceptibly from moment to moment but unmistakably over time. The dark around you is shifting. Not brightening, not becoming less dark, but changing in its texture, in its depth, in the way it feels against the glass of your pod, and you become aware, slowly, of a light that seems to come from everywhere at once, a light that is not a point and not a source but a quality of the space itself, as though the dark has begun to remember something luminous within it. You are rising. Not upward, because there is no upward out here, but away, drifting gently away from the plane of something vast, something so vast that you have been inside it this entire journey without ever seeing it, the way a fish inside the ocean cannot see the ocean, the way a word inside a sentence cannot read the sentence, and now you are drifting slowly outside it, slowly above it, slowly to the place where you can finally see the thing you have been part of all along. Breathe out. And look. The Milky Way is below you. It does not look the way you imagined it, and it does not look the way any photograph has shown it, because photographs are taken from within it, from a single point on a single arm, looking sideways to the disk, but you are above it now, above and outside and looking down at the whole of it, and what you see is this. A spiral. A slow and luminous spiral of 100 billion stars, turning in the dark with a patience and a grace so complete that the word turning seems too active, too urgent for what it actually is, which is more like resting, more like the way a galaxy rests in its own gravity, held together by the invisible pull of everything within it on everything else. A community of light so large that the light from one edge has not yet reached the other edge since the galaxy formed, and yet it is one thing. Unmistakably one thing, turning slowly in the dark like a thought so large it takes billions of years to complete itself. You look at it for a long time. You do not try to understand it. Understanding is not what this moment requires. This moment requires only looking, only the simple and open act of receiving what is there without reaching toward it, without reducing it to something smaller and more manageable, allowing it to be exactly as large and as beautiful and as old as it is, and allowing yourself to be exactly as small and as warm and as temporary as you are, and finding that neither of those things is diminished by the other. That smallness and vastness can rest alongside each other without conflict, like two notes that are far apart on the scale and yet sound together like something complete. That is what you are looking at. Something complete. All of it, every star, every planet, every moon, every asteroid and comet and cloud of gas and dust, every world that has ever formed and cooled and perhaps given rise to something that could look up and wonder, every ancient sun burning alone in its own arm of the spiral, every young star newly ignited in a cloud of its own making, every dark region between the arms where the density thins and the silence deepens, all of it turning together, all of it held together, all of it one thing. And somewhere in that spiral, so small you could not find it with your eye, is a single ordinary star. And around that star, a small blue world. And on that world, on the thin and luminous skin of it, everything you have ever known, every face, every voice, every place that has ever felt like home, every meal eaten in warmth, every conversation that lasted too long and ended too soon, every morning you have woken into with the particular quality of light that belongs only to your window at your particular hour, all of it there. All of it held in the gravity of that small and ordinary star, all of it continuing quietly while you rest. It is safe. Everything you love is safe. It is all there, on that small blue point in the spiral, turning in its own patient orbit, going about its own quiet business, and it will be there when you return, unchanged in all the ways that matter, waiting with the patience of something that does not know it is waiting, simply existing, simply continuing, the way all things continue when they are loved. Breathe in. And breathe out. Let the galaxy turn slowly in the dark below you. Let the 100 billion stars do their patient and unhurried work without your attention, without your assistance, without anything from you at all except perhaps this quiet witnessing from a great and peaceful distance, This moment of seeing the whole of it and finding it beautiful and finding it enough. It is enough. You are enough. This moment, this breath, this small and warm life held in the gravity of a small and ordinary star at the edge of a spiral galaxy turning in the dark, it is enough. It has always been enough. It will always be enough. And the knowing of this is not a thought you need to hold on to or remember or carry back with you. It will still be true when you wake. It was true before you slept. It is woven into the structure of things the way gravity is woven into the structure of things, invisible and constant, and the reason everything holds together. The galaxy is turning very slowly now. Or perhaps you are the one slowing, your awareness growing quieter and more still with each breath, the image of the spiral softening at the edges the way all images soften when the mind is almost done with waking, becoming less precise, less detailed, more felt than seen, more like the memory of a color than the color itself, more like the echo of light than light. Let it soften. Let it blur at the edges. Let the 100 billion stars become a glow, and let the glow become a warmth, and let the warmth become indistinguishable from the warmth of the pod around you, and let the pod become indistinguishable from the dark, and let the dark become indistinguishable from the quiet inside you, the quiet that has been growing deeper and wider and more complete with every breath of this long and gentle journey. You are very close to sleep now. Not the light and restless sleep of a mind that has not yet released its grip on the day, but the deep and true and restorative sleep of a mind that has traveled far enough to find perspective, far enough to see the whole of the thing it is part of, far enough to understand, in the wordless way that only this kind of distance makes possible, that it is held, that it has always been held, that the holding never stops. The universe will hold you while you sleep. It has been holding you your entire life, holding you with gravity and light and the slow turning of seasons, holding you with the patient alchemy of stars that burned and scattered themselves into the dark so that eventually, after billions of years, there would be something here to hold, something warm and breathing and capable of looking up at the night sky and feeling something that has no name but is close to gratitude, close to wonder, close to the particular piece of knowing you belong to something ancient and enormous and beautiful. You belong to all of this. Every part of it. The silence and the light, the dark between the stars and the stars themselves, the slow turning of the galaxy and the quick and fleeting warmth of a single life lived on a small blue world at the edge of one of its spiral arms. All of it is yours. All of it is you. Breathe out now. One last long breath, slower than all the ones before it, slower than you thought a breath could be, carrying with it the last of the waking world, the last of the day, the last of the thinking and the planning and the remembering, all of it released now, all of it given back to the dark, gently, without regret, without loss, because nothing that matters is lost when you sleep. Everything that matters waits for you quietly on the other side of this rest, patient as a star, certain as gravity. Warm as the small and ordinary light of a sun that has been rising every morning for 4.5 billion years and will go on rising long after tonight has ended. The galaxy is turning. So slowly. So quietly. The stars are burning. Each one alone, and each one part of the whole, and the whole is so large and so old and so continuously, effortlessly, unconditionally beautiful that even now, even at the very edge of sleep, even with your eyes closed and your breathing slow and your body completely and finally and perfectly still, even now you can feel it, that beauty, pressing gently against the inside of the dark like light against the inside of closed eyes, like warmth against the surface of a sleeping body, like the most patient and the most ancient and the most reliable thing there is. And you are part of it. And it is part of you. And that is the last thought. That is the last thought you need. Let it go now. Let it dissolve into the dark the way a breath dissolves into the air, the way a wave dissolves into the ocean, the way a single light dissolves into the morning when the morning is wide enough and bright enough and patient enough to hold it. Let everything dissolve. Let the pod dissolve. Let the stars dissolve. Let the galaxy dissolve. Let even the dark dissolve into something softer than dark, into something that has no name because there is no one awake to name it, only the slow and quiet fact of a body breathing, a mind at rest, a life held gently in the turning of an ancient and enormous and endlessly patient universe. Sleep now. Deeply. Completely. Warmly. You are safe. You have always been safe. The stars are keeping watch. They have been keeping watch since long before you were born, and they will keep watch long after tonight has ended and the morning has come, slow and ordinary and beautiful, to find you rested, and whole, and ready, and held. Sleep. Sleep. Sleep.